Last week, the SEC's case against Ripple was finally laid to rest, and a welcome development for many reasons, including that minds once occupied with litigation can now concentrate on creating a clear regulatory framework for crypto. This was posted by Hester Pierce, and shortly after that, news broke all across the world, all across Twitter, about Ripple versus SEC's lawsuit ending, and XRP's price dumped from $3.33 down over 6% to $3.10 and is currently sitting at $3.23. So a lot of people have been saying that the floodgates are about to be open for XRP, that it's going to be used globally as the bridge currency, and that Swift is about to integrate XRP. But is that actually true? Well, in this video, we're going to talk just about that. We have some undeniable information to uncover with you guys in this video about the ISO 20022 implementation that's happening for Swift this year, what it means for XRP, how XRP would be integrated, the reason why paying attention to price action on the charts is actually more important than just paying attention to the fundamental news, and I'll prove it to you in a little bit when we talk about the XRP, the US dollar price chart, what higher ups at companies like Standard Chartered Bank are saying about XRP, the truth about Ripple releasing XRP from their escrow and selling it every single month that 99% of investors in the crypto space completely misunderstand, and the reason why this is actually taking place. Plus, will Bank of America be using XRP for settlement? And some highlights from this interview with David Schwartz debunking some XRP myths that you do not want to miss. Plus, if you stick all the way to the end of this video, we're going to talk about what's happening for some other altcoins in the space and how you can capitalize before the next major move in the market so you can make as much money as possible. So if you guys are feeling bullish, if you're feeling blessed, you know what to do. Comment 777. And if you're going to become the first millionaire or billionaire in your family tree, confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it.
Mass adoption retail DeFi is a little bit stalled right now because the crypto space itself can't provide the stuff that ordinary people want. People need on and off ramps. They need to be able to get to their money. They need like sensible investments, like speculation in cryptocurrencies is great, but it's not going to replace your retirement account. This institutional adoption through stablecoins and real world assets is what's going to enable that next wave of retail adoption of DeFi, where we can provide the tools that like ordinary people actually use the financial system for. What we have right now in the DeFi space, we have collectibles and we have like highly speculative, high risk things. We have yield seeking that's sort of like high risk, potentially high reward, but very volatile. That's not what's going to build the new financial system. What's going to build the new financial system is loans, retirement accounts, investment accounts, payments, on and off ramps, the stuff that everybody needs every day. And this wave of institutional adoption through things like stablecoins and tokenized real world assets is what's going to give the crypto space the tools it needs to really grow DeFi from, maybe $120 billion into the trillions.
Have you built a crypto portfolio over $1 million but want to access your wealth without selling any of your coins? Well, imagine unlocking up to 85% of your portfolio's value to fund ventures like real estate, to buy other projects in the crypto space that are undervalued compared to the projects that you currently hold, or to diversify into different DeFi yield opportunities. That way you can live on the interest without selling any of your crypto. Well, we've partnered with a leading global office offering non-recourse crypto loans for investors with portfolios starting at $1 million. The same company that is trusted by the world's largest institutions and investors because, as you already know, the billionaires don't sell their crypto, they borrow against it. So if you're ready to unlock up to 85% of your portfolio's value without selling any of your coins and you have a portfolio with at least $1 million, then email us at team@bullrunners.com. You're going to see our email contact in the description below, and we'll get you connected with the company that has helped clients like ours north of $100 million borrow against their crypto without selling any of it. So reach out to start a conversation with our team right now at team@bullrunners.com, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, Bull Runners, welcome back to the channel. So with Bitcoin sitting just shy of 120K, Ethereum absolutely exploding over the past week, up over $4,500. We talked about Ethereum in a previous video. Back here around May 20th of 2025 when Ethereum was at $2,473, and this is what I said.
Because even looking at Ethereum's price chart, the RSI is at 64. We just peaked out here at about 84. We're in a downtrend right now on the stochastic RSI. Where the K line and the D line are at 43 and 40. So this is not giving me a clear signal that now is the best time to buy Ethereum. Even though I think it's going to be going higher, I do think we could experience some further volatility to the downside for Ethereum before we break out to the upside while the stochastic RSI resets below 20, while the relative strength index pulls back a little bit further, and then we see the bounce, and then we see the breakout for Ethereum back to retest the previous high of about $4,000.
And that was right about here when I made that video for Ethereum. And sure enough, we saw just that. We just saw volatility for Ethereum. We saw a sell-off down to $2,100. And what took place is exactly what I just mentioned in that video. We bounced all the way back up here to retest $4,000. And now Ethereum is breaking out to a new all-time high. So this is incredibly bullish for Ethereum. Now, I expect there to be some sell pressure, up to $4,800, as a lot of people who bought all the way back here, and a lot of traders are eyeing this key level because it is basically the last stop of resistance for Ethereum. So, maybe we see Ethereum consolidate at it, maybe it tries to push above it and then does something like this for a little bit and ultimately consolidates between $4,000 and $4,800 before we push to an all-time high. We're not sure exactly what the price chart for Ethereum will look like, although we are seeing a bearish divergence play out on the chart right now with a potential lower high being formed on the relative strength index while Ethereum is putting in a higher high right now. So that leads me to believe that we're going to see a much bigger correction closer to the all-time high or a little bit above it, and a longer consolidation before the blow off top for Ethereum in Q4 this year. But I do still think there's a lot of gains ahead for Ethereum, and I actually think it's going to be one of the best large caps alongside XRP by Q4 of this year. Now, I'll make some other videos about Ethereum and some altcoins on Ethereum's blockchain that I see exploding as Ethereum breaks its all-time high. But this video, we're talking about XRP because the SEC case against Ripple is finally laid to rest. I mean, this case has gone on for over 5 years. It's dragged on way too long. And the only real marketing that we've seen from Ripple in regards to this case ending is just a retweet right here from Stuart Alderati talking about how the SEC and Ripple formally filed direct with the Second Circuit to dismiss their appeals. The end. And now back to business. That's about it. And Brad Garlinghouse reposted Hester Pierce's post right here. But other than that, no video, no announcement, no tearjerker from Brad Garlinghouse here talking about how massive of a moment this is for Ripple. Nothing. And I find that a little strange. However, we can see XRP now breaking out on the price chart right here in this bull flag. It's been in a downtrend since the 8th of August. So this is why it's extremely important to understand how to look at charts rather than just the news, because while a lot of people expected XRP's price to pump on this news, if you paid attention to charts, then you would have a better understanding of when is the best time to buy, when is the best time to sell for any crypto asset. And I actually talked about this in my video that was live for our accelerator clients that's now uploaded inside of Altcoin Pro University. It was about 2 hours long, and I broke this down for you guys on XRP's price chart, Bitcoin's dominance, this divergent strategy that can help you get the best entry points on any crypto asset that you want. So if you guys aren't in the accelerator program, well, it is currently closed. We only accepted 30 investors to work with us in a more hands-on format. We do Q&A sessions every week. You're able to get your questions answered one-on-one with our research team as well too. But if you do want to apply for that, if we open the doors again in the future, then I'll leave a link for that in the description below next to Altcoin Pro University. You can just click the apply now, enter your details to apply, and then fill out the short survey so we can understand how to better serve you. So that's just accelerator.altcoinpro.com. Again, the link will be in the description below. But for those of you that were on that call that now better understand the strategy, you guys can see it play out on the price chart right here, where we saw a higher low on the relative strength index. We saw the lower low on the price chart right here. And what did we see happen for XRP? Well, it broke above resistance, back tested it as support, and is now rebounding to the upside. So congratulations to those of you guys that saw that on the chart, were able to accumulate XRP after this divergence played out on the back test and are now in profit from that live training yesterday. Now, what does this mean for XRP next? Well, we'll talk about the next major move for XRP on the price chart in a little bit. But before we do, listen to what CNBC is saying about crypto ETFs right here.
Speaking of crypto, Nate, similar to the push to market we're seeing in IPOs, you're seeing a lot of what you call a boatload of crypto ETF filings. What does that mean, and how does that differ from what we've seen in the past?
Well, it's interesting because the three major stock exchanges, so NYSE, NASDAQ, and CBOE, they have all filed with the SEC for generic listing standards for crypto ETFs, which basically means that the exchanges wouldn't need to seek specific approval for each spot crypto ETF as long as it meets certain criteria. So this would streamline the approval process. And that's important because right now there are filings out there from multiple issuers for XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, Cardano, HBAR. We could go on down the list, but there are a boatload of filings out there And the expectation is that this standardized crypto framework will be implemented, say, in the next 2 months or so. And so if and when that happens, I think you're going to see the floodgates open. We're going to see a wave of approvals, and you're going to see, again, a boatload of new crypto ETFs coming to market.
And if you look at all the companies that have filed for XRP ETFs and their assets under management, well, Bitwise, 5 billion, Canary Capital's 21 shares is 7 billion, Wisdom Tree 113 billion, ProShares 70 billion, Grayscale 40 billion, CoinShares 5 billion, Volatility Shares 5 billion, Franklin Templeton 1.5 trillion, Hashdex 1 billion, Tectrium 320 million. So these are not small companies here. They know what's coming over the next few months. So it's inevitable. And even Ethereum CEO Vitalik Buterin in a 2014 presentation said this about XRP.
Here's this other interesting system called Ripple. So Ripple here's basically how it works. You have people in the system. Everyone in the system has a debt to everyone, can have credit relationships with other people in the system. Not everyone has a credit relationship to everyone else. I might trust Richard with some amount of money, but I might not trust some random person in China. However, if I want to send some money to some random person in China, there's probably going to be some chain of people where each of us have a credit line with each other. So if I want to send $10 off to my friend in China, the way that it works is that I would send $10, where by sending $10, it really mean I would cancel a debt, or we would agree that the debt changed by $10. And then my friend would do the same with his friend, and then his friend would do the same with his friend, and so forth. So Ripple is just a mechanism for automating this. So, as it turns out, Ripple is completely not a new idea. It was around in this concept of koala networks. Now, however, koala networks have been digitized and coupled with a decentralized consensus algorithm. Magic. So, the advantage of Ripple is that with Ripple, you can store any currency on the blockchain if someone is willing to act as a backer. So one of the big problems with Bitcoin so far is its volatility. It's gone up from 1 to 32 to 2 to 266 to 65 to 1200 to did it go to the moon yet? Yeah, it's getting there. So most people don't really want to deal with that. They don't prefer to just have plain old dollars, but still be able to use this sort of hyper efficient financial system in order to transfer them. So you just send them over on the Ripple network. That's really what Ethereum is. People talk a lot about cryptocurrency 2.0 being like the internet of value. We're not the internet of value. Ripple is the internet of value. We're an arbitrary processor for state transaction functions. Got that?
So did you guys catch that? He said that Ethereum is not the internet of value. Ripple is the internet of value. That's coming from the CEO of the largest altcoin in the world. Now, when we talk about the internet of value, we need to talk about the global payment network and company of value. And that's SWIFT currently, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. They facilitate trillions of dollars daily through their network. While the exact daily transaction volume fluctuates, it's estimated to be over $5 trillion. And so SWIFT acts as a messaging system, not a bank, and enables financial institutions worldwide to securely send and receive information about transactions. They have over 11,000 members in 200 countries and territories. They send an average of 41.8 million messages per day. They're not a bank, they're a messaging system, and they currently are the largest platform for international financial messaging. So when we talk about Web3, when we talk about how payments are going to be done in the new digital economy, well, if you want to see the direct code linking XRP to ISO 222 and SWIFT, RippleNet's payment code directly references the ISO 222 external clearing system identification code list. And so R3 Corda's code base imports modules like XRP payment, XRP settlement, SWIFT service, SWIFT payment status type, putting XRP and SWIFT functions in the same system. And so the reason why this matters is because any token or company interacting with SWIFT must be ISO 222 compliant. And this code shows XRP meets that standard, meaning Ripple can technically connect and settle with any SWIFT-enabled institution through the XRP ledger. And most of you guys already know what the ISO standard is, but on SWIFT's official website, through the implementation that's been happening this year, during the coexistent periods, customers can decide when to enable ISO 222 for cross-border payments. And if they want to stay ahead, they would do it before all these other companies, because the end of this coexistence period is November of this year. So right now we're in August. So we got halfway through August, let's just say August, September, October, November. We got like 4 months until this coexistence period is over. and it's going to be required moving forward after that. So a lot of people are saying XRP isn't being used. Well, yeah, it's because it's not November yet. This is why it's important to pay attention to timelines here, because a lot of people think just because the news about something is announced, they don't pay attention to the critical details. Because to extract and realize the true benefits of ISO 20022, it needs to be implemented end to end, meaning every single thing needs to be ready before it's all systems go. And if one thing is not ready yet, then it's not end to end. It's kind of like having pipes that go from the ground to your kitchen. If one of those pipes is loose, the water is going to be diverted in a different direction and your sink and your faucet will not work. So end to end means all the pipes are connected so water and liquidity can finally flow into your kitchen. And this is what needs to take place in order for trillions of dollars to be flowing through XRP. Now, many of you guys remember this clip, but I'm going to play it another time because it's extremely important what he says here.
I used to work for Swift. I was Swift for 20 years, so Swift is flowing through my veins. Swift is the preeminent messaging system for the financial industry, which covers, say, payments, FX, trade, in terms of securities, etc., Nostra reconciliations, etc. What we're looking with the crypto, though, is where Swift would have a store and forward system for most of its payment transactions, where you need service level agreements that in a certain time I will do something, but payment turns up at a certain time during the day. Here we're looking at the new network styles, which allow instant, real-time movement to the funds and visibility of those funds as well. So we would not have a situation where banks need to come back to you and say, have my funds arrived? It's 3 days later. I need to find out or find query messages moving around the network. There's nothing like that. I don't believe Ripple is going to replace Swift. Ripple is one of the complementary networks, which is going to allow those institutions who need real time to make use of that. And I think we're also seeing that Swift are changing their network capability so that real time will be a possibility as well. But we may also see Ripple XRP moving across the Swift network as a currency when we're perhaps using something like FX.
Now, in January 2025, the US dollar accounted for 50.2% of international FX traffic sent via Swift, holding the largest share of payment processed on Swift, of course, because it's the global reserve currency. And that share climbs even higher to 60% when excluding payments within the Eurozone. So transaction between the US dollar, the euro to the JPY to, the Australian dollar, Chinese dollar, Canadian dollar, you name it, accounted for $7.5 trillion per day in 2022. And it was up from 6.6 trillion in 2019. And so if he worked for Swift for over 20 years and he's saying that they're going to be using XRP and FX payments, what could they possibly be waiting for? Well, could it be this timeline right here for the ISO 20022 standard by November or after November? Nonetheless, like I just mentioned, it needs to be end-to-end implementation to extract the true benefits globally for something like XRP. So until then, what do we need to do? Well, we need to pay attention to price action on the chart. And so just looking at XRP right here compared to XRP from the 13th of May until the breakout right here on the 9th of July, we see some similarities on the price chart. We can see XRP sold off from $2.64 all the way down to $1.90. Now, this was just a simple, A, B, C corrective phase when the bottom was in. Then we have to work our way on out of here, building higher lows, coming back up into resistance right here, roughly $2.30. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, we see something similar happen from the 18th of July to where we are today for XRP. We saw this sell-off, A, B, C, all the way down here to $2.73. And now we're forming higher lows, coming back into resistance at roughly $3.33 to $3.40. Again, resistance and supports don't go to an exact price. They go within a range, and you're watching these key levels to see if price responds to them. So similar to what we went through all through here during this phase for XRP before we finally broke out, we would test resistance, sell off, test resistance, sell off in these little bull flags, test resistance, sell off, and then inevitably break through it at some point. And that's all that's happening right now for XRP. After the C wave was in, what happened? Well, we broke back up to about $3.10. We come back down to backtest previous levels of support that we were at right here at the beginning of August. Also for the A sell-off phase right here, very similar to the top of the screen, you can see this A sell-off right here, 2.07. What happens? Well, we treat that as support. We treat that as support. After the C wave is in, we break out, we come back to it as support. bottom of the screen. After the C wave is in, we come back down to it right here as support. So we can see some similarities here on XRP compared to XRP in the past. So this rally for XRP all the way right here to almost $3.40 was similar to what happened back here on the 30th of June. So my expectations for XRP is for us to just face resistance right here at $3.40. Maybe we experience another aggressive pullback and then we start working our way through here to where we inevitably break through and go back up to $3.65 and then inevitably break through it, similar to what happened all through this phase right here for XRP on the major breakout. We can see resistance right here at $2.65. And look at what happened when XRP broke through resistance. It was rapid, it was sudden to $3, and then we come all the way back down through an aggressive back test right here before inevitably continuing higher. And so we could see something like that for XRP. When we finally do experience a breakout, it could be aggressive, it could be sudden. We could see XRP push to, $4, who knows, maybe $5, and then an aggressive back test within these levels right here before experiencing the blow off top in Q4 of this year. We don't know exactly how long this will take, but with what's happening with Ethereum right now, that's the path to alt season. Plus, when you got massive companies filing for XRP ETFs, it's inevitable over the next few months, we're going to start to see a lot of these 401ks start to roll over into crypto. Just from a psychological perspective, they're prepping all of these baby boomers that have 401ks to be bullish on crypto. And Standard Chartered is saying, we see payment service providers and coin providers like Ripple's XRP native on ISO 222. That's their global head of transaction banking at Standard Chartered. And he also said we can use ISO 222 to bridge between traditional and decentralized finance. When you then take the rich data into that and combine it, you have almost the perfect innovation system. And Standard Chartered's total assets as of 2024 were $849 billion, almost $1 trillion. So they're a very big bank. Now, here's the biggest argument against Ripple's XRP that I have seen from XRP haters. And this post right here sums it up. Ripple releases 1 billion XRP from escrow at August 9th, valued at $3.28 billion into circulation. This involved 3 transactions, 500 million XRP to an unknown wallet, 100 million XRP to Ripple, and 400 million XRP to the company. As part of the 2017 protocol designed to stabilize market supply, this event occurred amidst a bullish market for XRP following the company's recent legal victory in the U.S. court case. So, with Hester Pierce making this post about the lawsuit, the SEC posting it on their official website, us not really seeing anything from CEO Brad Garlinghouse other than a repost of Hester Pierce, and same thing for Stuart Alderoty on Ripple's page. Ripple had virtually no PR plan for this event, which is the most significant event in Ripple's history for this 5-year plus lawsuit. Instead, we're seeing this get circulated everywhere about Ripple releasing XRP from escrow, and people like this guy right here saying they want you to buy XRP while they sell it. So it's undeniable. Ripple has been selling XRP. However, this is what 99% of crypto investors don't truly understand. So we responded back to his post saying, this is a great way to show everyone you don't fully understand how business works. Because when you compare to TradFi companies, like for example, Elon Musk has sold 160 million Tesla shares for a total of $59 to $62 billion from 2010 to 2022. And Tesla is still up over 40,000% since 2010, regardless of Elon Musk selling roughly $60 billion worth of the stock. This also helped Elon acquire what? Twitter. Mark Zuckerberg has sold approximately $7.7 billion in Facebook stock from 2012 to 2024. And Meta is up over 5,000%, currently making an all-time high. Jeff Bezos has sold about $20 billion in Amazon stock from 2004 to 2024. And Amazon is up over 20,000%, sitting at upwards of $220 since then. So the people who've been hating on Ripple execs like Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, that have sold XRP, well, they've sold a total of roughly 1.26 billion XRP. And obviously that's going to be different based on when you're watching this video. Yet you can do the math for yourself since XRP's inception, how much XRP is still up. So the people that look at like the minute chart or the day-to-day chart, and they're not looking at the weekly chart or the monthly chart, are completely losing grips of what's actually taking place here. They're losing the forest through the trees. Since November of 2024, XRP is up over 500%. And since 2014, Ripple has acquired companies like Medico for $250 million, Standard Custody and Trust, that cost was undisclosed, Hidden Road for $1.25 billion, Rail for $200 million. They even put in an offer for USDC Circle, just to name a few. So on the surface level, general post like this with just some random person, I don't even know who this guy is, saying they want you to buy XRP while they sell it, Well, that same argument could be made about Bill Gates at Microsoft, which is the number 2 largest market cap company in the world, Apple, which is number 3, even Google, which is number 4, Amazon, which is number 5, Facebook, which is number 6. All of the examples that I just gave you guys are in the top 10 by market cap. Not to mention virtually all the top CEOs of all these top companies at one point or another have sold some of their stock. So I think this argument right here is just really stupid. People need to do their research. And they just need to understand the facts. XRP's still up, Ripple's acquiring companies because they're prepping for XRP to be used in the new financial system. Now, listen to what the chief operating officer over at Link2 said.
You would expect large institutions, financial institutions, certainly like Bank of America, to transact. I think it was actually quite timely and maybe fully intended that Ripple created and introduced this liquidity hub product. Because what I'd be doing if I were in Ripple's shoes today is I'd be integrating Liquidity Hub into the RippleNet product. So every user of RippleNet, like Bank of America, would simply port into Liquidity Hub as the means of obtaining and managing that XRP position that they need to work through ODL. Right? Liquidity Hub is just a massive, smart router engine. It has feeds to accounts that Ripple has opened across all the liquidity venues around the world. Basically, virtually every exchange where there is depth of liquidity, it has accounts at. So if I'm Bank of America, I become a Liquidity Hub customer, and on any given moment, or where I need, pick a number, $1 billion worth of XRP to transact, I plug that into Liquidity Hub, and Liquidity Hub will break that $1 billion up into fractions and route them for execution and closing across all the exchanges to get the optimal average acquisition price for XRP. And then when I'm done using the XRP for ODL, I turn around and I go the opposite direction, and I have that same smart engine route my sell order and go back to cash. And that's what I want to do. Sell the XRP across all the venues to get the optimal price for Bank of America, right? And at no time do I ever have to be in a position where I'm actually taking XRP from Ripple itself. I'm doing it through all of these exchanges. And what Ripple will do in that instance is it'll be on an ongoing basis looking at the XRP available across all those exchanges worldwide and just distributing XRP through those exchanges. It will sell XRP into those exchanges to create supply.
And XRP is gearing up on the verge of a massive move on the weekly chart, sitting right at the resistance from December of 2017 to, January of 2025, even July of 2025 on the weekly chart. We just wicked above it, but we closed on the candle body right at it and then pushed down below it. So this is just a massive cup and handle for XRP on the weekly. So if we take the depth of the cup and put it to the breakout point, that would put the next stop for XRP at roughly around $5. Now that's not financial advice, obviously. That's just purely speculation. That could not happen, but based on the way that global liquidity has been expanding and altcoins have been breaking out, I think it's inevitable. Now, if you do currently have a lot of XRP, here's one very important thing to understand before we reach the top of the market.
Mass adoption retail DeFi is a little bit stalled right now because the crypto space itself can't provide the stuff that ordinary people want. People need on and off ramps. They need to be able to get to their money. They need sensible investments, like speculation in cryptocurrencies is great, but it's not going to replace your retirement account. This institutional adoption through stablecoins and real world assets is what's going to enable that next wave of retail adoption of DeFi, where we can provide the tools that ordinary people actually use the financial system for. What we have right now in the DeFi space, we have collectibles and we have highly speculative, high risk things. We have yield seeking that's sort of high risk, potentially high reward, but very volatile. That's not what's going to build the new financial system. What's going to build the new financial system is loans.
Have you built a crypto portfolio over $1 million but want to access your wealth without selling any of your coins? Well, imagine unlocking up to 85% of your portfolio's value to fund ventures like real estate, to buy other projects in the crypto space that are undervalued compared to the projects that you currently hold, or to diversify into different DeFi yield opportunities. That way you can live on the interest without selling any of your crypto. Well, We've partnered with a leading global office offering non-recourse crypto loans for investors with portfolios starting at $1 million. The same company that is trusted by the world's largest institutions and investors because, as you already know, the billionaires don't sell their crypto, they borrow against it. So if you're ready to unlock up to 85% of your portfolio's value without selling any of your coins and you have a portfolio with at least $1 million, then email us at team@bullrunners.com. You're going to see our email contact in the description below, and we'll get you connected with the company that has helped clients like ours north of $100 million borrow against their crypto without selling any of it. So reach out to start a conversation with our team right now at team@bullrunners.com, and we'll talk to you soon. So right now, XRP looks like 2017, only this time moving more slowly and organic. So we're about to go into price discovery soon. I think it's inevitable. You guys see what's happening with Ethereum right now while I'm making this video. I mean, I have my phone right here next to me, and you can see Ethereum currently is breaking out and is upwards of $4,600 right now. So where do you think liquidity is going to trickle to next? Well, I think you put two and two together here. Now let's listen to what David Schwartz has to say about some of the myths circulating regarding XRP.
By far, the biggest misconception is that Ripple somehow controls the ledger. It's a public blockchain. Every node enforces every rule. The consensus model doesn't control the blockchain. It's got censorship resistance as a network feature. The XRP ledger has been running since 2012 with a global set of validators. Most of them are not affiliated with Ripple at all. We run something like 1% of the network. We are a major contributor to the ecosystem, and it is obviously very important to us. We're probably the most interested participant, and that's true. We work on providing infrastructure updates. We work on, assisting people in the community, incentivizing and attracting developers, provide developer resources, grants, and an accelerator program. But we have no interest or desire in running the network. It doesn't help. We would love for everybody to trust us completely, but people having to trust us is all downside for us. And so there's no reason we would want to run or control the network. We wouldn't want to be able to censor transactions because then people could pressure us to censor transactions. And I think it's important to understand that, if that kind of control were ever exercised, if there was someone who could censor Bitcoin transactions and they ever did, everybody would know about it immediately. Presumably the person whose transaction was censored would be mad. And they would have no incentive not to be public because the transaction would be, everyone would know anyway, right? To make a Bitcoin transaction, the first thing you do is submit it publicly to, all of the miners. And so if there was a transaction that had been submitted publicly that hadn't, everybody would know it. There's no secret backdoor, a back room. It can't be done. It can't work. If anyone had power and exercised it just once, that would be the end of it. It's an inherently fair by design system. And so I think people who perceive, it is weird that people perceive us as sort of the problem is that Ripple run. We don't have any say over transactions. The network's rules are objective. Payments are objective. There's nobody who's ever had a transaction stopped by Ripple. If they did, they'd say so. The reason you need a UNL is because the way the XRP ledger's consensus algorithm works, you have to have something scarce. If you didn't have anything scarce, essentially there could be an unlimited number of entities attempting to participate in the consensus algorithm, and consensus could never terminate. A malicious participant could create 500,000 identities that just don't come to consensus. Now, other ways to solve that, Bitcoin uses something scarce, which is computing power. Ethereum uses something scarce, which is the staking of ETH. You have to have something scarce. And so what the XRP ledger uses is just chosen scarcity. So someone just grants something scarce that has no value. And the validators essentially just solve the double spend problem. That's the only reason you need validators, right? If I have one XRP, I can send it to Alice or Bob, and I can form one transaction to send it to Alice, one transaction to send it to Bob. We have to somehow eventually agree that one of those is valid and the other isn't, or the network would descend into chaos. So the only reason we need validators is to solve the double spend problem. And the way the system works is if a validator is doing something unreasonable or irrational, if it attempts to break the system's rules, just like if I made a Bitcoin transaction that said, hey, I have 1 billion Bitcoin, don't ask where they came from. Everybody will look at that as just garbage, right? If it's not valid, it's just garbage. And so validators can't lie or distort or cheat, because if they did, all the nodes would just say, I don't understand what this is. It doesn't follow the rules, and they would throw it away. But it's important to understand that, that's the only reason we need validators. We do also use validators as part of our governance mechanism. And that's where so in the first case, you wouldn't care who runs, nobody cares how the double spend problem is resolved. I'm a jerk and I try to send the same message to both Alice and Bob. All we care about is that it's solved somehow, right? I'm a jerk. I shouldn't do that, right? Honest people don't care about the double spend problem as long as it's fixed somehow because they don't want the system to descend into chaos. But we also use validators as a governance coordination mechanism. So let's say I made a proposal to create 100 billion new XRP that were all mine. I would hope that people would reject that proposal. So in order to get that proposal to happen, two things have to happen. Every node has to have the code for that proposal. And then someone has to say, okay, turn that code on. But if you turn the code on before people have it, the network will just break. And the software has strong protections against breaking. So if you tried to turn on a feature that wasn't enabled, you just couldn't do it because the code has defenses against that. So effectively, the real governance mechanism is getting people to run the code. If I wanted to control the network and take over all the XRP or change the rules in some unfair way, I have to get people to run that code. And that's the ultimate governance mechanism. But the validators do coordinate the timing of the change. They decide sort of when to flip the switch. And so that is a governance role that they have. And there it does matter who runs the validator. Because if there was something controversial, the validators could refuse to enable it or decide that, could refuse to enable it even if people had it. And what we would hope would happen in that situation is people would just switch to the validators that are going to do what they want. So that's an interesting difference between the validator system that we have and the staking, or if you want to fork Bitcoin and have your own rules, you have to get enough miners and enough value for your system to be secure. For Ethereum, if you want to fork it, you have to get enough staking. There's nothing you need to get enough of to fork the XRP.
Got it.
Because it's just chosen scarcity. Yeah, it's interesting whether I think that's better, but obviously of course I'm somewhat biased, but I think it's nice though that there's nothing specific you need to do. If you want to fork the XRP ledger and make XRP and XRP Cash or something, it's totally up to the world to decide which has the economic value. It's just as what happened with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
So what are your guys' thoughts on all of that? Because as XRP breaks out, Ethereum breaks out, see other projects like Chainlink, Solana, Sui, etc. Well, a lot of people want to know when others are going to break out, everything outside the top 10. So if we look at the others chart right here, we can see a major zone of resistance that we're at right now that was support ever since the 19th of December to the beginning of February. When we held this zone right here, we can see a standard ABC corrective wave to the bottom from the high. We can see the A wave right here, the B complacency stage wave, then the C wave all the way down here to April. And very similar to what I showed you guys on the XRP price chart with these major zones right here of support and resistance. Well, what's happening right now for others is similar to the XRP price chart. We broke out from the C wave, we back test the zone as support, we come back up close to resistance, get rejected from it, come all the way back down to support. And we're also in this rounded bottom formation right here. So now that we're bouncing off of support, another time we're coming back into resistance. So we're getting to a very critical point for others right here where either one of two things is going to happen. We're going to break to the downside and invalidate this rounded bottom formation, or we're going to do what I believe will happen and break to the upside and catch up to total 2, which is leading others right now because the top 10 move first. We see Ethereum move, then the path to alt season is after large caps. Well, then the mid caps start to move. So what happened right here for total 2 is essentially where we're at right now for the others chart. And you guys can see total 2 is approaching the previous all-time high from December of 2024. So where's the all-time high at for others? Well, it's all the way up here at about $450 billion. And currently we're at $300 billion. So we have about another $150 billion to the upside to catch up to what's happened recently with total 2. So I think this is the next most likely scenario for others right here on the left-hand side of the screen. And what that means for you, if you're positioned properly in the right projects before they take off, in the right narratives and niches of crypto, is you can make significantly more money by backing up your truck for the right projects. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. 1,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees because crypto is definitely risky, guys, this is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now. Watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.